Welcome back to another installment in my monthly, well, bi-monthly, monthly, sometimes it depends on when albums release, series where I go through all the albums that have really piqued my interest over the past month, or 2 months. In this case, I'll be covering both June and July, as June didn't have many releases, so I left it a month or so, and now we're here. These 2 months have been pretty nice, nothing incredibly substantial released, besides maybe 1 or 2 albums, but there have been some great things I've heard. So with introductions out of the way, let's start with the first album of the video. Ugly Season by Perfume Genius. The newest release from hit art pop artist Perfume Genius sees Hadrius take his music in a completely new direction. A direction that I honestly could never have foreseen. This album is, to put it simply, ugly. But that isn't inherently a bad thing, and Hadrius makes sure that we're aware of that. Songs like Just a Room and Harem are so minimalist and barren that you could hear a penny drop. Their pianos and strings filling that emptiness with a sort of twisted beauty. Incredibly beautiful atmospheres are created throughout the entire album, especially in songs like the aforementioned Harem. Then there are also tracks like Pop Song and Eye on the Wall, which are also songs that were released prior to both this album and his previous, which are gorgeous psychedelic pieces that are probably the closest songs here I can consider worthy of being singles. Then there's Hellbent, the album's final vocal outing. Now, the reason I singled this track out specifically is that this track is a whole other beast. This is an industrial powerhouse and definitely startled me on first listen, but has been one of the songs I've returned to the most. This album is beautifully composed throughout, and even the interlude track Scherzo is a highlight for me. This album is ugly, but God, is it so beautiful. I could give it a solid 9 out of 10. If maybe I can't return to it that often, but I can appreciate it enough for what it is, and the songs I do return to are amazing, that I think that's a worthy score. If you're in that weird indie slacker rock side of RYM, you've probably seen Horse Jumper of Love's debut album around, maybe on lists or in your recommended, somewhere like that. The little alien on the front cover is an icon. Who is he? We will never know. But the band returned with a new album that I was quite excited for. Now, I hadn't listened to their previous release, So Divine, and I still haven't, as of recording this, so I went into this with expectations from their debut. I wasn't expecting something as high quality as that. How do you replicate songs like Ugly Brunette and Orange Peeler? This is a quick, side tangent. While I was looking for a video of Orange Peeler, I found a Doomer version, which normally I don't look at, because I don't really care for them. But it actually sounds kind of good, and I kind of like it, so I'll link it in the description below if you want to listen to it. It's actually, pretty good. But I was still pleasantly surprised. They still have their sound, and there are some really good tracks on here, especially the opener Snakeskin and the closer Bucket of Gold. And throughout the album, their lush, slowcore sound is very prominent. If you like their debut, I would give this a listen. It's only 30 minutes, so if you don't like it, it isn't a massive waste of time. 8 out of 10? 7? 8? Somewhere along those lines. as it's short, it's sweet, and it gives me at least all that I want out of Horse Jumper of Love, really. They can't top their debut, or it'll be very difficult to, but this is a solid entry in their discography. This one might be shorter than the rest, as there's a lot I want to say about this album, but I won't be saying it here. Seachad is a very close friend of mine, and they released their debut album in June entitled Blue Heart, I Love You. It's an album about love and heartbreak, original concept, I know. The album takes heavy inspiration from albums like Loveless and Twin Fantasy, or really any CSH album. It shows its inspirations on its sleeve, and for some, that's a good thing. For some, that's a bad thing. That's really up to personal preference. For me personally, it doesn't really bother me. For a debut record, this is surprisingly good, and the production value is quite high, especially considering this was made on a MacBook Pro by one person. The main issue this album suffers from, though, is feeling too short and too long at the same time. It has a lot of ideas it wants to explore, and it does do that well, but I feel that it's in this limbo where there are parts that could have definitely been cut, like for instance the two 10+ minute tracks could have both been shortened, while they also could have been used to further increase depth of the record. I don't find this album boring in any way. I enjoyed it a lot, and for a debut this is really good. I know that Seachad will only get better with time, as is with most artists. I'm not restarting the recording. Will Toledo didn't make Twin Fantasy first, did he? This is the more difficult album to rate, but I think as of right now, it sits at a solid 8 out of 10. There are flaws, as I've said, like the length being both too long and too short, which is difficult to explain, but I did my best. But I can see strong potential for the future of Seachad's musical endeavours. This is a very, very strong start. Another off Montreal album, so soon. Barnes is incredibly prolific. Freewave, Lucifer, Fuck. It's a very interesting album. It follows the same trend that his previous album did, where it is a complete brain fuck. This album, though, feels a lot more contained and thought out compared to her last. I Feel Safe With You Trash felt like a very spur-of-the-moment album, an album that was Barnes letting out all he had, you could definitely tell. It was an absolute clusterfuck, but I loved it. Here though, with Freewave, I'm not saying the full title again, Barnes seems to channel that energy much more and really harness it to create some really psychedelic music. There's a lot going on in these songs, and it's also wavy, for lack of a better word. If there was an album I'd use to describe the neo-psychedelia genre tag, it would be this one. This is one of Offmon's shorter releases though, at only 34 minutes, but an odd benefit of that is that this entire album, minus the opener, feels like one big, long song. I saw someone on RYM call this Offmon's Cassandra Gemini, and that title feels, well, I mean, I guess it's fitting, I guess. If you're in for a bite-sized psychedelic drug trip, then give this brainfuck a listen. Solid 8.5 out of 10. I've noticed that pretty much every single album here I've given an 8 out of 10. I'm very good at rating things. But either way, this is a good album. I liked it. It's a nice little surprise. It's definitely weird, and it's not for everyone, but for the people it is for, I'm sure they will enjoy it a lot, and I am one of those people, and I enjoy it a lot. You fucking faggots really haven't seen The Last of Us yet. Black Midi return with a new album so soon after their previous. Hellfire feels like a continuation and a natural development in their music. Every one of their albums just get better and better and better, and it's tricky to explain why. It's definitely a mix of them truly honing in their sound and embracing the kind of music they make, but I also feel like it's just a matter of Black Midi not being able to make any kind of bad music, because that's just how their music is. Nothing they could release could be bad, and I will die on that hill. Every one of their albums have been hit after hit after hit, and are all very well Black Midi. The biggest difference in this album, compared to their others though, it's the lyrical content. While their other albums obviously have lyrics, and certain songs tell stories, Hellfire is their first true delve into a sort of concept album. Characters that appear in multiple songs, and lyrics that tell full, imaginable stories. I can really picture songs like Welcome to Hell, The Race is About to Begin, and 27 Questions in my head. The instrumentation combined with the lyrics really paint a vivid picture, and I feel that's what makes this Black Midi's best album, so far at least. They utilize all of their components to make something incredibly grand, and something that I cannot wait to see live. I've always found it tricky to rate Black Midi albums, because I just love them all, that they blend together. In a good way, of course, but I feel Hellfire stands on its own the best out of their 3 records due to its themes, lyrical content, and just general improvements, so I'd have to give it a 9.5, pushing a perfect score. They just don't miss. Now, those were all the albums that I listened to and enjoyed over the past 2 months, but that doesn't mean there weren't any singles that really caught my eye. There were some amazing songs released over the past 2 months that I feel I really need to shed some light on, and that you should really go and listen to. This song has been on loop since I first heard it at the beginning of June. A friend showed me this 8-minute track, and I've been obsessed ever since. This song is beautifully composed, sung, and written. I cannot get enough of it. It reminds me of a mix of Black Country, Death Crash, and Caroline, who I've all talked about before in previous videos. It opens with strings and wonderful spoken verses before falling into a gorgeous chorus. The second part of the song then is much more grand, featuring vocals from the rest of the band, ending with a massive bang. I would keep a very keen eye on this band in the future, because if this song is what their debut album might be like, then it might just become a contender for Album of the Year. Jane Remover, formerly known as Delete Zeke, released this single with an announcement of their name change. They said that they didn't feel connected with the name Delete Zeke anymore, and wanted a name that fitted better, and they chose this. Royal Blue Wars is an extension of this announcement in a sense. It's an immensely personal song that, to be honest, did take a listen or two to really click with me. On first listen I did like it a lot, but it didn't stick with me as much as it does now. I think it might have been because I didn't fully pay attention to the lyrics, because as usual, Jane writes some amazing lyrics here about them growing up and their insecurities. It's a very personal song, but a very beautiful one. Clocking in at 6 minutes, this is a lengthy track, and a lot to digest, but once you let it really resonate, it's gorgeous. Sufjan Stevens released 2 new versions of his infamously depressing song 4th of July on his birthday, the 1st of July. He missed the 4th by 3 days, but I can forgive him for not being born 3 days later. This double-sided single contains 2 quite different versions of the track. The digital version also includes the original version, but I won't be talking about that for obvious reasons. Both new versions are much more stripped back compared to the original. Side A has the April bass version of the track, which feels somewhat more uplifting than the original. Its higher strings and choir definitely makes it feel more hopeful than the original, but its lyrics still make it feel despondent and lonely. The B-side, the Dumbo version, is even more stripped back, with Sufjan playing only an acoustic guitar with little to no added effects. This version sounds more inherently depressing than the previous, but obviously comes nowhere near the original. I definitely prefer the April version of the song, but both versions are really good. Definitely worth checking out if you're a Sufjan fan, if you haven't already, of course. The final single I want to talk about today is a song that I didn't think I would enjoy this much. This song absolutely blew me away, and I keep coming back to it. I haven't listened to much Teen Suicide or Sam Ray's Other Works. I've listened to a bit of Starry Cat and Julia Brown, and I really enjoyed that, but this sounds absolutely nothing alike. This song is beautiful, and I absolutely adore it. The lyrics, the vocals, the production, it's all wonderful and makes me feel so comforted and calm. It's a song about living and wanting to be happy. Ironic coming from a band called Teen Suicide, I know. It's a song that just makes me feel happy, and we all need songs like that in our lives. And that's the end of this video. Hope that you enjoyed watching this, and I also hope that you maybe found something new to listen to here, whether that be an album or a single. That is ultimately my goal with these videos anyway. Hopefully I'll see you again next month for whatever releases in August, which to be honest, I only really know of one album that is releasing, but maybe we'll see more. If not, then I suppose I'll see you in September, if anything releases in September. If not, then October. And I'll keep pushing it back until I have enough albums to make some form of video, because I'm not making one with just 2. That's not enough. If you do enjoy these videos, then please like and subscribe, and also if you want to, you can donate to my Ko-fi in the description, as it helps me and motivates me to continue making these videos, as I obviously don't make anything off of these due to copyright. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will hopefully see you soon. Goodbye.